Hey mates, welcome to the Loose Carry Podcast. I'm your host, Phoenix Trinidad, and if you are new here, this is Zero Tackle's weekly NRL podcast where we talk all things rugby league. And this week, we talk about all the games on the weekend. We take a look at the run home towards the finals, who we think are going to make it, and the Gold Coast Titans announced that they're sacking Des Hasler live as we were recording the pod, so you get our instant reactions. It's a very interesting episode. If you're not subscribed to this YouTube channel, you should be, because this week we also have an exclusive video coming out with Chad Townsend where he goes through his hardest team that he's ever had to play against. He names the best 13 of the hardest players that he's ever had to play against. So it's a really good video, and that'll be coming out this week. But for now, let's get into the episode of A Loose Carry. Alrighty, so this week, no premiership talent on the board, but we do have the OG Zero Tackle crew. So first we have Darren, Parkin. How are you, mate?
Going very well, yeah. Sadly, no premierships over here at any level ever. But yeah, another fascinating weekend, and what a finish in that Raiders-Panthers clash.
Absolutely. And the man that keeps Zero Tackle running, Scott Pryde. How are you, mate?
Yeah, well, Phoenix. Looks like you used the entire salary cap on this show last week, so we're back to the originals this week, eh?
Absolutely. And the coach with the mostest, Lee Addison. Hello, mate.
Mate, your intros then. Firstly, no premierships. I've won about 12 in my life at various levels.
Can I have one?
When you said the man that keeps Zero Tackle going, I had one cheek off the seat. I was ready to stand up and accept all the acclaim. If I look at you strange this week, it's because I got new glasses fitted yesterday, so if I look at you as if I'm drunk or ready to murder you or something, please just accept my apologies. I can't see properly. I'm trying to adjust my eyes while
Alrighty, well, off to a great start. Let's get into the rundown. Alrighty, first game on the board. Scott, I'll let you take this one, but question first is what kind of flavour donuts are your favourite?
Oh, Phoenix, that's good for me. You want to talk about a good start? It wasn't a good start to the weekend if you're a Dragons fan, I'll tell you that much. Look, the Dragons were flat, and I expected them to be flat. They've been up for a number of weeks, playing way above their station. They flew back from Auckland on a 6-day turnaround, having spent 50 minutes with 14 blokes, so it was never going to be a fun night against Souths. Credit to South Sydney, they played really well, and I think if they can stay healthy next year, then they're a force. I mean, you want to talk about injuries? Well, the Rabbitohs have been hit harder than anybody this year by injuries. We know I think they've lost 200 plus weeks to injuries across their squad. So it's a ridiculous stat, and the likes of which we've never seen. So I think Wayne Bennett could have that side humming next year, and they're a real chance. But yeah, I mean, the Dragons there are excuses. I'm not going to sit here and make them. They're all pretty clear, but yeah.
I think it's ridiculous asking teams to play on a Thursday when they have been to New Zealand the previous week. I think it should be mandated that they play on the Sunday. I don't think you treat racehorses or any animal in a similar way. I expected a heavy defeat, and I think if you look at the patterns of teams that have travelled to New Zealand over the years and then had a shortish turnaround, I think it was 6 days this time, they tend to lose, and they tend to lose heavily. On top of that, Souths played in Sydney the week before, so it's exacerbated. On Souths, their biggest win over Dragons, apparently. And I think it's another positive sign. I remember talking on the podcast a few weeks ago how I was with a lot of South fans and said, your season is turning around. There are some green shoots, even in defeat. And I think I've been somewhat vindicated in the last few weeks, because the positive for South is that they kept the Dragons 2-0.
I mean, we threw nothing at them, Lee, but I mean, counterpoint, I just want to go back. You're talking about mandated that teams should play the Sunday after travelling to New Zealand. How does that work for the Warriors travelling back and forth?
Well, I've seen this sort of work in the Super League when Toronto were in there. You can actually structure some blocks into the season. So it might be for 2 weeks the Warriors play in Sydney, or 3 weeks, something like that. Yep. I know there's some difficulty in terms of family interaction if players are away for so long and so forth, and we've also got Perth to come into the competition as well, so they do have to work this out, because if there's an unfair advantage to the Warriors, it's that they get to do this travel every couple of weeks, and they have done now for 3 decades. So if they don't know what to do by now, they never will, right? So they're very experienced, and the body does get used to things over a period of time. You become anaesthetized to its impact. So I totally get your point, Scott. I just think that the Thursday is too much of an ask. Absolutely. Yeah. Let's get it to the weekend at least. Maybe not the Sunday, but the Saturday. Like, honestly, they've got to be smarter with this. Absolutely a lot smarter.
On a more, without tangenting too much, Lee, we often ask this question. If you've got the majority of teams in one area, so New South Wales has more teams than everybody else, it's a little bit different in the NRL to, say, the AFL. The AFL's condensed down to, say, one venue per city, maybe two. There's a bit of a home ground factor across the NRL, even for, say, the New South Wales teams, but it's obviously easier to travel to another Sydney venue if you're a supporter and you can get some representation there. Is it harder to be, say, the Warriors, who travel every second week but have a distinct home ground advantage, or be a team that travels less but has less of a home ground advantage, if that makes sense? Let's say you have 5 genuine home ground advantages a season, but only travel 6 or 7 times, or you have 12 genuine home ground advantages but travel 12 times.
To me, a smart coach and coaching staff use whatever situation they are in to their advantage. Okay, so I've said ad nauseum on this podcast that the Bulldogs can't really travel out of Sydney. So if I was at the Bulldogs, I'd be putting a lot of emphasis on that a few weeks ahead, and making sure that all creature comforts are allowed to be replicated at least 1 hour outside of Sydney, right? So whereas if you're the Warriors, or Perth in a few years' time, you have to be used to travelling. So it's like me. I've had a couple of contracts in Toowoomba, so part of my week has been travelling a few hours to Toowoomba each week. So you adapt and you work around and you work your hours around. So I think it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, Darren. I don't think any of us would choose to be far away, though. I think we'd rather be at home as much as we can, or close to home. So if there is a slight advantage, I think it's that one. But without going into deep analysis about the number of teams in Sydney and the rest, it's hard to quantify. Because if you're far away from home, you can certainly use siege mentality to your advantage too. The refs in Sydney don't love us, the refs in Brisbane don't love us, kind of thing. So, yeah, it's got to be used to its advantage, whatever it is.
Yep, absolutely. So heading over to the next game, the Raiders, probably their best win of the season, at least the most clutch. Darren, that was probably, if you're talking premiership chances now, I'm pretty convinced on Canberra after that last minute win.
That's an audition, that's for sure. That's a how do you handle the side that's done it so often, the side that had everything to play for. So you had a desperate Panthers side, an experienced Panthers side. The Panthers have been stiff to lose a couple of times in Golden Point, but it goes to show, Scott, that I guess that was always going to be the hiccup for them. With the way they started the season, you end up with no margin for error. They haven't played poorly by any means over the last fortnight, but unfortunately the lack of margin for error has got them. So now they're faced with the task of trying to win it the really hard way from outside the top 4. So, the Panthers, they would have lost no admirers, but they lose ground for sure. But the Raiders, definitely, that's standing up under the pressure of the moment. And I thought it was telling that they came out after the game and felt they still had a lot of improvement out of that. They were a bit rough in certain patches with the way they moved the ball. So good signs for them.
Yeah, I thought the Raiders weren't actually at their best and managed to win. As you said, that was said post game. I thought they were actually quite clunky early. But they got the job done, and the hallmark of a good team is being able to win when you're not playing at your best. I have said it a few times, and I've written it a few times as well. But I think for Canberra to win the competition, they need to find a way to get rid of those lapses, because September is unforgiving. It is a new season, and you don't come into games knowing that you've got another chance. You have to be perfect. So I think Canberra have still got a little way to go. They're certainly in contention to take out the competition, but I'm not sure I still have them in that top bracket yet. They are very close. Penrith, yeah, you're right. They lost that margin for error with their horrendous start. But at the same time, those are games that they win in previous seasons. They find a way to pull them out of the fire, and they didn't. They haven't done that the last 2 weeks, but with 2 Golden Point losses there to Melbourne and Canberra. So. I think to me, the Panthers are still a very, very strong chance of winning this competition, but to do it from outside the top 4 will be an extra hurdle for them for sure.
4 very quick snippets from me. Did you see that the Raiders targeted Scott Sorensen quite significantly in the defensive line? Two of their tries came from what I would categorise as dodgy defence from Scott Sorensen. I am concerned. Well, I'm not concerned, but I would be concerned about Dylan Edwards' form at the moment. He's got hands like cows' things. On Penrith, my third point, I keep hearing this narrative that Cleary is the Iceman. He has missed more field goals in the last few weeks, and he's shanked some, seriously. This is a serious case of media narrative that's gone crazy. He wasn't the Iceman in New South Wales colours. He was anything but. And if you look at Nathan Cleary's moments where he's meant to be the Iceman, one of his field goals has just passed Russia. It was that bad. And then the fourth thing, every good team in rugby league needs a ranger. And Corey Horsburgh was absolutely fantastic the other day. How he didn't play Origin. And I think he's also putting himself into Australian contention as well. And Dylan Edwards is probably playing himself out of Australian contention.
Yeah, agree.
Yep, absolutely. But yeah, Canberra, I'm a vibes guy, and Canberra have premiership vibes based solely on the kid in the dinosaur costume.
Wasn't that good?
Yeah, and he ended up in the rooms after the game too, and I was like, this is a premiership team.
Darren, control your children.
I'll put my dinosaur hat on now, actually. That's me.
You looked a lot shorter on TV, Darren.
Outstanding.
Alrighty, I'll go back to you, Lee. So Storm got over the Bulldogs. Bulldogs, failing again. But how did you find that game?
I think I'd be concerned if I was the Bulldogs about the form since the middle of the year when they made some changes to a team that was riding high in the Premiership. Again, at risk of repeating myself, I think we all agree that they probably weren't going to be a Premiership contender this year because they probably lacked some X factor, but the fact that they have tinkered with the roster and messages have either leaked out or... Honestly, I've had Bulldogs fans get in touch with me and said it's all a conspiracy about these messages that are leaking out, and then they've been confirmed weeks later. The fact that has happened, I think they have derailed their Premiership credentials this year. I think they would have been everybody's favourite team, not just people in Belmore and Bankstown. I think they would have been everybody's favourite team if they'd have kept what they had, really tried each week, given 100%, which I'm not saying they're not, but they would have been a lot closer, I think. And that is unfair on Lockie Galvin, but honestly, he's not been an upgrade this year. I think he will be an upgrade, but he's not been an upgrade this year. And you can't just catapult somebody into your season in the middle of your season if a lot of your pre-season shtick has been about togetherness, commitment, fighting and dying for each other on the field. So I think that's caused real problems, Darren.
Yeah, I think it has, and I know I'll throw to Scott in a minute for that one because you had something to say about that over the weekend, which I think was accurate. But I'll take the Storm point with that hat on for a second before I handball that over. I think at the top of the table at the moment, it's extremely tight in the sense that in previous years, last year there were two clear standouts. You had the Storm, who were the best side over the course of the season, and Penrith, who were the masters and the three-time defending champs. Before that, Penrith had been clearly the benchmark. This year, the margins, I think, are quite small between Canberra, Penrith at their best, Storm, whoever else it may be that's in the frame. And I think for Melbourne, they'd been a tiny bit not rough around the edges, but at times they'd had lapses in games where their defence hadn't been as sturdy maybe as it had been previously, but that was a very resolute kind of vice-like performance. And I thought for them to be tuning up after last week's sort of gritty win against Penrith to then come out and do that, I think that's a really good sign that they're fine-tuning for what they want it to look like come September. But Scott, your thoughts on Galvin, which raised eyebrows at the time, and those eyebrows haven't gone down.
Yeah, look, I'm with Lee. I firmly don't understand why you change your team. Galvin is, I know I've used far harsher words off there to describe it, but Galvin is not a halfback at this stage of his career. He may develop into one. He has talent, there's no doubt about that, and certainly potential, but at this stage, he is not a halfback, and Canterbury are finding that out the hard way. You cannot win a competition with 2 5'8" running in the halves. Brisbane tried it with Anthony Milford. It didn't work. And if they couldn't work it with Milford, well, you're not going to work it with many other 5'8". The other example I've compared it to recently, I know Bulldogs fans certainly were in my mentions over the weekend because I put a little bit of a tweet out about Galvin, but sometimes you don't need flash because Canterbury have plenty of that across the park. And what Galvin has done is completely upset their system. I've likened it to, Cronulla won, we've been doing a bit of work with Chad Townsend, full disclosure, but Cronulla won a premiership with Chad Townsend. He was an excellent game manager and an excellent kicker. He didn't have the flash and style over the top of that quite often. But Cronulla found, Ben Barber, other guys in that 2016 premiership team found a way to provide that. And that's where Canterbury were building with Toby Sexton. Toby Sexton's not going to work in every NRL system, but he was working really well in the Canterbury one, and I just can't understand why you'd change it. I very seldom disagree with Phil Gould, but this decision just doesn't make any sense.
Yep, absolutely. We're going to jump ahead to the Titans and Warriors games now, but we have some breaking news that we've just found out in the chat. So Gold Coast have decided to sever ties with Des Hasler officially. So let's go to you, Lee, because you have a previous relationship with Des.
The narrative that was spun last week was the PR message that Des is the kind of coach that will ban his players from talking to the media for 2-3 months, put fences around training, etc., and that this is not conducive to what the Gold Coast Titans need from a marketing point of view. So therefore, if you look at the Titans' messaging over the last few weeks, talk about leaking like a sieve. It was, Des is probably gone, so the Titans players played harder for a couple of weeks. When he played harder, it started to leak that maybe he was staying. And then the results didn't go their way all of a sudden. And then last week, a couple of papers, because obviously journals get looked after by certain people and get information leaked. And it was started that Des might not be the best person PR-wise for the club. I tell you what works for PR. Winning. And I don't think supporters care if their coach is a little bit grumpy at times. Otherwise, Wayne Bennett would have been hounded out 40 years ago. I think they've really mishandled this from so many angles. Josh Hannay, good luck to him. A rookie coach. Why they think a rookie coach would all of a sudden improve everything at the Titans. At the best, they're going to get a sugar hit, and then let's see where they are in a year, and then let's reassess. So I'm not going to pass a comment that Josh Hannay is the wrong person or anything like that. But I do think investing all your eggs in the Des Hasler basket and everything Des Hasler brings, and then to toss that out of the bathwater after 2 years and the conflicting messaging, really poor, Scott. really poor from the Titans.
Yeah, sorry, just following the situation as it breaks there. But, yeah, look, you mentioned the word mishandled there, Lee, and the Titans for many years have mishandled the situation. I thought they mishandled the situation to appoint Des Hasler as coach because I didn't think Justin Holbrook was doing a whole lot wrong.
Correct, yeah.
Prior to that, I can't actually remember who was coach, but they signed Jared Hayne as a sugar hit, and it derailed that season that was actually going okay at the time. So I think for whatever reason, the Titans management, they mishandle a lot of things. That said, I don't think Des Hasler could remain coach. He's been there for 2 years. A coach is supposed to improve a footy team, and the Titans have actively gone backwards under his coaching. I think, yes, he's been hamstrung by a roster that is not up to scratch, but at the same time, David Fafita is a shell of his former self. Tino Fa'asuamaleaui wants to leave. They have 3 fullbacks that they just continually want to re-sign, and I don't understand the roster management while Des has been there. I don't understand the style they're trying to play, and for all it's worth, I don't think Des has done himself a great service in the media. I thought his stoush around David Fafita's future with a journo on Saturday was just, I just don't get it. I don't understand it. So I think he had to go, but I think the Titans management have serious questions to answer.
Darren, in terms of their recruitment, the 2 people that were responsible for the Titans recruitment have now gone over to the Perth Bears. Mal Meninga and Ezra Howe.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to point the finger everywhere. It's always going to go to the man in the head position. But I wonder, I mean, you're right that they've certainly regressed, but I wonder where they expected to be and how far off. I mean, most of us would have thought they were a bottom 4, certainly not nowhere near a final side, but probably a bottom 4 side at the start of the season. Yes, they've regressed in terms of some of the key players that you would expect a little bit more from. But yeah, I think it's a club that's misread where they were at, misread where they were supposed to be, made decisions that have failed them in that space and have ultimately paid the price.
I think when a club is perennially underperforming and you appoint a coach that is going to toughen your club, I agree with the decision at the time that it wasn't probably a good marriage. However, once you've gone down that road to bring Des Hasler, you've got to support it wholeheartedly. Now, there's so many things wrong with that roster. A Des Hasler team, and again, I've been privy to Des Hasler's teams, they have at least 10 or 11 blokes that will never let you down on the field every week, on both sides of the ball, offence and defence. And then they have that sprinkling of absolute megastars that can score the points and get on the highlight reels. But the vast majority of the players are people who will never, ever, ever let you down. And also that sprinkling of superstars are coached in a certain way and have a certain way about their personalities that their worst game isn't that bad, but their best game is fantastic. That's how you build a premiership roster, basically. Can we honestly go through the Titans side and say that they've got a roster that represents that? So Des would have needed time to conduct his surgery. And they've not given him the time either. They've just wasted 2 years, basically.
Yeah, progress isn't linear. You don't. It's not a case of you appoint this, you expect to go forward, and you slowly move the gap up like this. That there's always going to be, if there are holes in the list, you're trying things, you find out where those holes are, you might pop up and then drop back down again. And I just think there's maybe a lack of, you don't have every single person on the same page.
No.
And then you end up here. So.
All right, so on the other side of the Titans game, so the Warriors, they did pretty well. They were good enough. So Chance Nickel-Klokstad, Scott, why must he play fullback?
Well, I think what we've seen the last few weeks from the Warriors with Nickel-Klokstad in the centres is that they lose a lot of that forward momentum that they pride their game on. And Nickel-Klokstad is one of the best ball runners in the competition. There's no doubt about that from fullback. I compare it to I wrote about this a couple of weeks ago, but I compare it to the Penrith system where for the last 4 years, their back, or their wingers and fullback at least, have been in the top sort of 10 or 15 for run meters in the competition. And the modern game is played so much on the front foot and so much through your territory that you need that to be competitive. The only team that really don't do that and manage to stay competitive in Melbourne, but they're freaks of nature, and Craig Bellamy's got his own thing going down there, so good on him. But with Nickel Cookstay in the centres, I found 3 weeks in a row there, I think it was, he didn't crack 100 metres. His previous worst for a completed game this year was like 180 metres, and it's a huge difference statistically and for your team's momentum and territory. He goes back to fullback, and all of a sudden, I know they're playing the Titans, but all of a sudden he runs 190 metres and the Warriors score 32 points. I'm not a rocket scientist, but to me that seems pretty straight down the line of what the Warriors need to be doing moving forward.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's move on to the next game. The Sea Eagles 58 points up on the Dolphins, who only managed 30. Darren,
yeah, it's they play some high-scoring games, which I know Lee will touch on later on both sides of the coin. But yeah, Manly's highest score in just over 2 years, June 2023, first time they played the Dolphins. They put 58 on that day, and last time they went higher was July 2021 when they beat the Dogs 66-0 on that occasion. So, it keeps them alive. Obviously, they're 10th, Dolphins 9th. We'll also talk about the Roosters, who are in that conversation in 8th, who had a bad weekend too. But Manly, inconsistent season. That's sort of what their best looks like, and the Dolphins a bit too loose, as pretty as they can look offensively.
I would like to take a step back and a helicopter view a little bit to this kind of game. Some fans will find that entertaining. Most, if you like, older rugby league fans prefer an attritional game that's something like 28-18 or something like that. Rugby league has traditionally been a sport where we get the scoring moments right from a viewing perspective. So let's look at soccer. Sometimes you can go 90 minutes and there's a 0-0, or there might be a 1 goal in the 80th minute. So there's a build-up for 80 minutes before a release of energy. If you look at AFL basketball, there's a regularity of points scored. If you look at rugby league, there tended to be between 4 and 10 scoring moments in most games over the course of 80 minutes, if you look at the history of the game. That seems to have changed quite significantly. So I think the NRL have got to get this balance right too, when it comes to 6 agains, focuses on 3-second rucks, shot clocks, etc. Because I'll go into it a little bit later, but this kind of game is getting even more common now. As the years go on, I wondered if I'd gone on the AFL website by accident when I saw the scoreline.
Test cricket versus T20, maybe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I as a neutral, I enjoyed it. It was good fun. Great to see Daly Cherry Evans rip it up in his 350th. We'll move on. I don't think there's too much more to be said.
Yeah, absolutely. And this next game was pretty interesting. I've been talking up the Roosters the last couple of weeks, Lee, and they fell 20 points short of the Eels, 30-10.
What was strange about this is that the Roosters were never in the game, really.
Yeah.
The Parramatta just came out of the traps faster. And the other takeaway, or 2 takeaways, Moses was brilliant. He is so important to Parramatta's season. And when he plays well, Parramatta play well. But on the flip side of that, when Walker is in the team for the Roosters, have a look at their success rate when he isn't in the team. I think he has been essential to their comeback, if you like, in the last few weeks. And him being out for a week or 2 now is going to be very, very interesting. And the Dolphins, if you look at the running, the Dolphins could end up playing Canberra in the last round, who've already won the minor premiership. So Ricky might rest 17 players, I don't know. They could end up in the finals, and they don't deserve to be there. They are falling through a cliff. Falling off a cliff, sorry, don't fall through a cliff, do you?
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll get into the run home in a little bit, but there is a very real world now where the Roosters missed the finals. I don't see them I potentially don't see them winning either of their last 2 games without Sam Walker. He's just that important to them. They play Melbourne this week. They're going to get trounced down there. It's not going to be close. And then they play South Sydney in the last round, who have suddenly turned a corner and have a bye leading into that. Walker probably should be back for that game, provided he recovers from his concussions well enough. And, no club will rush a player back from concussion, but if there's ever a time, it might be that one. But yeah, I heard earlier this year, Lee, I think Andrew Johns named Mitchell Moses as basically a 16-point player. The Eels play, he's worth 16 points to their team. And every time you see him play with Moses, you think it's probably closer and closer to the truth. He's just that good. And I mean, if he's not on that plane to England in a month's, 2 months' time, or a month's time probably now, I don't know why he wouldn't be. He's been unreal.
Yeah, so on Saturday night during that game, I was about 10 hours into a Bucks do, and I saw the score and texted our good friend Retro Rugby League, just 3 letters, just oof. And he said, oof indeed. And
he's now blocked.
Poor Retro, no dancing this week.
I wanted to get him on the show without him actually getting on the show. So moving over to the next game, Darren. So Broncos 46 on the Knights, who still can't really score, but that was better than what they've put up for most of the year. But Reece Walsh seems to be playing better without Adam Reynolds and Ezra Mam.
Yeah, they're a fascinating side with some of those aspects, some of the individuals and how they get the best out of all of those together, the Broncos. But, I mean, if you look at 3 steps for them, they've secured finals. The next step is home final. They're in a home final position as it stands and obviously trying to get the double chance of top 4. They've got the Cowboys in the South versus the North this week, and then obviously they play the Storm again, who we talk about the run home. They've had a poor record against the Storm, but they were really denied a genuine opportunity a few weeks back with a shocking run of injuries in the space of about 10 minutes. So keen to see how they go with those guys back. And I still can't shake the feeling, Lee, that they could be a fairly dangerous customer if they get it all together when it matters.
I still put that. I've still got them in my thoughts for potential premiership winner, believe it or not. Flipping teams, though. And this morning we've had the news about Josh Hannay. That might force Newcastle's hand. Because surely Adam the Cat O'Brien has run out of lives now. They have won 2 games all year at home. Their edge defence yesterday was absolutely awful. Poor Jermaine McEwen. The Broncos walked all the way through him each time they carried the ball towards him. It was awful. They looked all at sea when they were conceding points. And you can tell if a team is together and connected, even when they concede points sometimes. Right? The good teams, when they concede points, you can tell they are connected. Newcastle are not connected in defence, at least.
The thing for... Oh, sorry, Leo.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
The thing for me with Newcastle is Dylan Brown is not going to fix this next year.
No.
Like, they are so on the back foot. They get bullied every week. As you just rightly pointed out, their edge defence is diabolical. And so bringing in a $1 million halfback, and he's not a halfback, by the way, he's a 5'8", he's another Galvin.
Again.
Is not going to fix that. Is not going to fix that situation. So you're right. O'Brien, to me, as Ray analysed, and I think, the Des sacking could force Newcastle's hand.
And what a set of fans, Scott. They've sold out every single home game this year.
And this is it. Like, Newcastle fans are the best in the league. Like, credit where it's due. Newcastle, what a town. But they deserve better. And, you look through O'Brien's run as coach. The last couple of times he's made the finals, Newcastle have crawled out of the blocks and looked more like the Wooden Spooners finals team halfway through the season. Yeah. And then Kalen Ponga comes back from injury and they win 10 games on the trot. That, I mean, Ponga's been, fit for a fair chunk of this season. They have been awful. Absolutely awful. Their attack is dreadful. It's one of the worst attacks I don't know who structures their attack, but it is horrendous. It's not good enough. It's not NRL standard, and O'Brien has to go.
Would they be having those conversations anyway, do we think, Lee? Like, with the Knights, obviously the Titans are now in the market quite publicly for a new coach. The Knights aren't publicly yet because they haven't made that call, but do you feel that there would have been those conversations already with certain managers of certain individuals about what are you doing next year.
They would have been getting the phone calls if they weren't.
Yeah.
So I think the club would be negligent if they weren't thinking about a new coach. Because Adam O'Brien's had a great period. It's not like he's had 2 years.
He's had a run.
He's had a good stint.
Yeah.
He's had a good stint. And if the Titans, I mean, the Titans are no barometer here, but, the Titans have taken 2 years to decide that the Des Hasler approach was wrong. Surely the Knights board have had enough time to work out that Adam O'Brien is not going to win them a premiership.
In the same vein, though, we talk about the Titans don't need a rookie coach. I'd probably argue Newcastle aren't in the boat for a rookie coach either, because they're going to have a tricky situation there to manage next year with Palmer and Brown taken up.
But what else? What else is there, though, Scott? Sorry if I interrupted you there.
And you're right. That's one
of
the problems. And I think you've hinted at it, Lee, maybe on your socials or even in an article. I can't remember, but there's not that many good coaches coming through at the moment. And who takes over? I'm not sure.
When we do the special podcast on coach pathways, I'll answer that one.
Does Willie Peters get a run? Willie Peters, Brad Arthur. Like, do we look to the guys in England at the moment? I'd say I wouldn't like to be a club sitting at the bottom of the table, but I am. So let's move on.
Lee, you might have to put your hand up, but we'll stick with you as well. West Tigers going down to the Cowboys. Not a whole lot about this game to talk about.
I'm just going to go to what you said about Lee putting your hand up.
Go on.
The pathway is broken.
Right. So
that's why somebody like Lee isn't in the NRL system still. No, not just me. Right. I'm using that as an example because there's 100 Lees not in the NRL system.
Man.
But that's another podcast.
Might have to explore this one during the off-season.
That's right. It is absolutely broken. Tigers Cowboys, talking of broken. Another basketball game. There's only the teams that are in premiership contention, in my opinion, who showed anything like defensive resilience this weekend. The Broncos were one of them. They didn't concede many points. But they were also playing Newcastle, so there's an asterisk next to that one. But the Bulldogs and the Storm played out a rugby league, what I would say is a traditional rugby league score-wise game. And the Canberra Raiders and Penrith. There's your premiership winners in that four, one of those four. Because you have to defend the football. And quite frankly, if any of these teams, your Dolphins, your Manlys, your West Tigers, if they were to get into the finals, I mean, what's the idea of the finals? The finals is to try and go on and win a premiership. You ain't going to win a premiership when you are conceding so many points. People will be listening to this and going, the Raiders, they've conceded points, but they've clearly tightened the nuts and bolts in the run into the business end of the season, and they have the ability to. I would like to also add two more things. Tom Dearden is the best fullback in this country at the moment. Isaiah Katoa is a bee's appendage behind him, but only because of virtue of his age. And the second thing I'd like to add is that I think if I'm on the West Tigers board, I am calling this season an unqualified success, believe it or not. Even if they've not made the finals.
Yeah, I think so. Sorry, Dan, I'll let you go.
I was going to say, if you look at you mentioned there, what's the point of those bottom sides creeping into the 8? Even if you just take last year's ladder as an example, so you had the contenders at the top. Of the sides that finished 5 to 8, you've had the Bulldogs kick on to another level, but then you've had the Knights obviously fall away, Cowboys fall away, Manly might miss the finals. So I guess if you have one of those sides almost audition and build from there, but the others haven't justified that with what they've done since. So.
Yeah, just back on the Tigers. Unqualified success is the right thing to call. I think there's still a lot of work to do at the Tigers, and I think any Tigers fan will acknowledge exactly how far there is to go there. But they certainly are in a better position than they were at the start of the year. I think Benji's starting to prove himself as a coach. And again, like, they might have lost yesterday, but they had that really good win against Manly last week. I think what was the best thing to see about yesterday was a packed out Leichhardt on a Sunday afternoon. It doesn't get much better. than that. And to cap off that, the Tigers have announced this morning that they are staying at Leichhardt and Campbelltown for the next 15 years minimum. $100 million in funding secured through all three levels of government. Well done to the Tigers, well done to the governments, because suburban stadiums is where rugby league is at. I know Phoenix and Darren, you guys in Melbourne don't understand the suburban stadium argument, but rugby league is built on tribalism. It's built on fans packing out the hill at Cobra or Leichhardt or Cronulla or wherever. We saw a huge crowd at Manly on Saturday afternoon as well. Crowds have been up at suburban grounds ever since COVID finished. So again, well done to the Tigers, well done to the three levels of government, and let's keep footy at suburban stadiums.
And the final one on that, without transitioning into the AFL too much, a lot of people talk about how the NRL has state of origin over the AFL in that they've kept that going successfully. That's true, but the other one is that suburban ground thing. I mean, growing up in Melbourne, as you say, going to Moorabbin and Windy Hill and Victoria Park, that being lost to the game, I think has been a real shame for the AFL. So I think it's vitally important that the NRL keeps that traditional heartland sort of culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
The only problem with Leichhardt, though, people are still trying to get to their cars because the parking is terrible around there. So, and apparently the press facilities aren't great. So a lot of work to do on and off the field there.
I assume that's all going to be part of this upgrade. $50 million secured for Leichhardt, $50 million for Campbelltown.
You'd hope so. Yeah, but absolutely. As I envy the use of the suburban stadiums at the top level. But all right, we're coming towards the end. But Scott, you wanted to take a look at the run home. We're right in the thick of it. 2 rounds to go. So where did you want to kick off?
I do. We've got 2 rounds to go, as you just said, Phoenix. The ladder is, when I actually put this down, I thought we'd have a little bit more jostling left with the ladder, but we're getting there now. So Canberra are locked into the top 2, which is really cool for Canberra. So they're going to host a qualifying final. Melbourne are just about there as well. So Melbourne and Canberra, we assume, are going to host the qualifying finals. Canterbury pretty much locked into the top 4 as well. That 4th spot now comes down to the Warriors and the Panthers. Interestingly enough, Penrith have they play Canterbury this week. So that's a really big game in these last 2 weeks. Warriors, they play the Eels at home, and then Manly, I think it is, away. I'm just looking through my notes. Yes, they play Manly away in the last week. So that top 4 race, the Warriors have got a 3-point buffer, but there's no guarantee the way they've been playing. Sorry to say, Phoenix, I know you're shaking your head there.
And the Eels and Manly look pretty dangerous. So
yeah, Cronulla and Brisbane, they're locked into the top 8 now, which is interesting. But that 8th spot, we were talking about it a little bit earlier, and this is where I want to bring in Lee and Darren. Who takes this 8th spot? Because the Roosters currently have a 2-point buffer over Manly and the Dolphins. But as we've talked about, the Roosters play Melbourne without Sam Walker this week, and then they play the Rabbitohs, who are coming off a bye by round 27.
And who hate them.
I was going to say, if there's any game the Rabbitohs will get up for, it's that one.
Yeah.
The Dolphins, they play this week against the Titans at home. You'd imagine they're going to win that. And then they're away to Canberra in the final week, at home to Canberra, rather. And as you pointed out, Lee, Canberra could have won the minor premiership by then, so they could rest a lot of players. And then Manly, they clash with the Dragons this week, and then they host the Warriors. So who have you guys got taking that 8th spot?
Before that news dropped this morning, I would have said the Dolphins are going to make the 8 because of what I alluded to earlier, Sam Walker, when you've mentioned as well.
Bounce. Yeah.
However, now the news has broken. Do you remember what happened to the Titans, Darren, the last time they thought Des Hasler was leaving? Do you remember what happened? They won the next 2 games.
The famous bounce, the coach. It's in all sport all around the world. The old coach sack bounce is it's a real thing. I mean, when I say it's a real thing, I think the winning record's about 55%. But when you factor in that sides are sacking coaches, clearly their winning record before that is much lower. So you generally get a response, even if they don't win. They're pretty competitive. I think Manly would start favourites or close to favourites in both games. But they've just been so inconsistent that it's hard to tell. I mean, Roosters will definitely start underdogs in one and then play a rivalry match in the other. And I can't trust the Dolphins. So maybe Manly will pinch it. Maybe.
I think the biggest thing for Manly is their for and against is considerably lower than the other two sides. So they will need the Roosters to lose both of their games to make that 8. But again, I can see that happening. So maybe it is Manly. Three goes into one. It's going to be an interesting 2 weeks.
What I can promise you is none of the teams we're discussing are on grand final day. They're not there on grand final day.
No.
They're not in the last
it's just a
fortnight
circus.
either.
Let's say you can have a couple of extra games. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we haven't even mentioned the Sharks at all. This obviously we haven't mentioned the Sharks this week, but they're going to be playing finals. But do we see them making any sort of impact in the finals? Because I don't.
No.
Yeah.
I think they can win a final, but
no.
That might be it. Not, I reckon just the one. I reckon they're a second week team.
The way I see it shaping up is that they've got Brisbane at home week 1. Like just to run you through where I've got my final ladder at the moment. I've got Canberra first. They'll host the Warriors in the first quali. Melbourne second. They'll host the Bulldogs in the second quali. Penrith fifth. At the moment I've still got the Roosters finishing 8th, but whoever Penrith play, they're gonna.
Here's the
whether it's the Roosters, Dolphins, or Sea Eagles, they're going to be cannon fodder for Penrith.
Yeah.
And the other one is Cronulla and Brisbane, and I think Brisbane win that. So I think Cronulla will be out week 1 in my view.
Yeah.
The full analysis of that run home will be up on site Monday afternoon, so be sure to check it out.
Absolutely. We will get to the plugs in a second, Scott.
Well, we're talking about Phoenix.
You're getting excited. All right, well, let's just get a quick into the round 26 preview. So I'll go to you, Scott. So what has the biggest consequences there?
Yeah, I think that Thursday night game's clearly significant. I mean, the Panthers doing a lot right, but not winning, so that'll be a really curious watch. And then probably just you start to get into those finals permutations matches. Can the Roosters do something special? Can Manly, even that up on the win-loss column? So yeah, there's a few, but I think Thursday night you can't go past there.
As you know, with me, there's been a few rounds this year where I've been more interested in watching the cricket than the NRL because of some of the fixtures. But this week, I think there's every single game is worth watching. So just very quickly going through: Bulldogs, Penrith, obviously, Warriors and Eels. Warriors are trying to secure a top 4. Parramatta Eels have got a free spirit about them at the moment. Storm and Roosters, we've talked about ad nauseum. Canberra Raiders and West Tigers, 2 great attacking sides. St George and Manly. So going back to the Raiders obviously want to make sure they win the minor premiership. St George and Manly. St George will want to bounce back from last week. Manly want to make the 8. Queensland and Brisbane. Queensland derby, first of all. And secondly, Brisbane want to secure their best spot in the 8. Cronulla Sharks have had a bye and they've got the Newcastle Knights. They want to basically throw something back at all of us who've just said they're not a premiership threat. And the Dolphins and the Titans. I mean, the Titans, the bounce back, and the Dolphins trying to score an 8. So that's as good a round as we've had for a while, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can add too much to that. It is going to be a great round of footy. I'll be at Congress Saturday afternoon. That's all I'm going to say. And I hope the beers are celebratory rather than regrets at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. This was a massive episode. I think first time we've had breaking news happen while we've been recording. So, Scott, what can we expect from Zero Tackle this week?
Oh, I already jumped the gun, Phoenix. So is there any point in this? No, the run home will be up the Savo. And obviously, with 2 weeks to go, things are getting a little bit exciting now. The other one to watch out for on Friday, I'll be dropping a bit of a look ahead to the November 1 transfer deadline. Obviously, there's a lot of players who are going to be becoming free agents at this stage on November 1. So having a look at each club, how they're shaping up for 2027. I know it's a long way away, but welcome to the crazy world of rugby league. And just having a look at what each club needs to do before November 1 with their own current squad.
Yep, absolutely. And Lee Addison, what do you have going on?
Well, Scott wondered how long away the Ashes tour is, and it's actually 2 months. Still 2 months. I'm going to be announcing a very big Kangaroos legend very soon who's going to be coming on the tour. He's a Queensland legend, a Broncos legend, and an Australian Kangaroos legend, although clearly I need to give everybody on the plane a copy of my book, Rugby League Coach 13 Game-Changing Conversations to Transform Your Coaching. You can get that by going to rugbyleaguecoach.com.au/shop. And I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you. And Darren Parkin, what have we got going on, mate?
I think we'll also be starting to dabble into that player movement, list management space going forward with some stuff, and looking forward to kicking into that.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you for your time, gentlemen. Very well handled, and we'll catch you next week.